Well, that is that about poetry. And quickly we move to prose. You might want to ask that why is prose not a subset of or a subtopic of poetry, but it is rather a subset of the subject literature. Now why? Because like poetry, prose has its own rules, regulation, terms, condition, and everything you want to call it. It has things that guides it that makes it different from poetry, and that is what we're going to be looking at right now. What is its purpose? Now the purpose, like I told you for poem, poetry has two purposes, but this prose has 4 purposes. Let's check it out. Number 1 is to inform. 2 is to entertain. 3 is to express. And finally 4 is to persuade. Now, information is the first thing that comes to you when you grab anything. No matter what the material is, no matter what it's talking about, you want to be informed about it. Even if you know before, you want to know more. That is why you're picking up any literature or literary material. So information is a very, very important key or important job in any literary work. So informing is the purpose of a prose. As number 1 purpose, informing, entertaining. Now, like we've discussed that though before, but then to shed more light on it, entertain it. When you read, you refresh. It entertains the mind. It loosens it up most of the time. And next, I said is to express. In this part, prose is an expression from the point of view of the writer, the writer, the author. We call them author. In poetry, we call them poets, but in prose we call them author. Now, expression of the author in this case is another aim why it is prose and not the poetry. The way it is expressed is different from the way a poem is expressed. So this is a prose by its expression. Now 4 is to persuade. Now every written subject, every written article, subject or book or whatever it is, or any class it belongs to, has a reason why it's written. It is either to appeal, either to emotion, it's either to correct some vices in the society, it is either to talk of things that the writer, be it a poet or the author, have seen around the world, that is wants to communicate and persuade you, and seek your consent as a reader, or to persuade you concerning a particular it could be a social ill. You understand? So persuasion persuasion is another reason or purpose that prose fulfills. Now we'll move to text features of prose. Now there are several features that makes prose. There are several features that make prose unique. One of them is writing with the usage of paragraphs. Writing with the usage of paragraphs. That is, when you write, if you're going to relate that to the poem, like we said earlier, paragraphs here is the stanza in poetry. Paragraphs here, it means that okay, in poetry is stanza by stanza. Agreement of words. A particular writer, plenty of words where you have to take a break and probably take a breath. You understand? You call that what? A stanza in poem. But then here is paragraphs. It's paragraph. The first paragraph, then you move to the next paragraph. Number 2, it may contain dialogue too. We know that as a prose, the words are written the words are free, they just run through most of the time, but then that doesn't mean that it can't contain dialogue. But it's just that the form of dialogue, unlike drama, we'll still come to that, we'll talk about drama, but unlike drama, it does the kind of dialogue is not arranged, it's not systematically arranged. The dialogue can come between lines. The dialogue can come between lines, so it contains dialogue. That's number 2. Let me not forget to write that. It may contain dialogues. Now, number 3, it can be fiction or non-fiction. It can be fiction or not fiction. You see, prose. Every article could be fiction or not fiction. But then, in the case of prose, they are cut into 2, fiction and non-fiction. Now, under the fiction, a whole lot can come. You have the ballad, you have a whole lot. But under the non-fiction, is further divided into 2. You have the biography and autobiography. The biography and autobiography. Under here, you have biography, autobiography. Now, let me quickly explain that. Now, biography, that's under non-fiction. Sorry. Under non-fiction, you have biography and autobiography. Now, biography is like a person writing about another person's life. Okay, you've heard of heroes like what am I going to talk about now? Who am I going to talk? Everybody can be able to relate with. Okay, you've heard of Abiola, MKO Abiola. Let me bring it down to home. You've heard of MKO Abiola as an hero. Now, if I'm writing about MKO Abiola as an hero, I'm writing. What I'm doing biography of a person. But then, in other cases, a person can be writing about his own biography, talking about himself by himself in a book, like Awolowo did. Awolowo has a book that he wrote like that. That he's talked about himself. The former chairman of EFCC, Nuhu Ribadu, has the same thing. He did the same thing. He wrote a book about himself and his lifestyle. That is an autobiography because they are talking about themselves by themselves. Biography is talking about a person by another person. So, but these two are non-fiction. They are incidents that happen truly. They are true life stories. So they come under non-fiction. But the ones that come under fictions are things that you think of. It's just a matter of sitting and thinking, getting an idea, then translating it into a book. That comes under non-fiction. Non-fictions too can be catalog, things you've seen, you travel to, not necessarily like you thought about them. You must have seen them, you could see them, but not about a person, not about an individual, not about human being. It is human being that the non-fiction is most of the time directed or made for. So I think you understand that it can be fiction or non-fiction. And number 4, it can have heading or subheading. Can have heading and subheading. It can have heading or subheading. Well, what do we mean by that? You know, when you say, okay, you read a book, then they say the Biafra War. That is an heading. That is an heading. Biafra War is an heading. Then under it, you are reading, then you go to a place, then you say the Biafran soldiers at the war. That could be a subheading under the Biafra War. So there's nothing wrong in a prose having an heading or a subheading. Is part of it. It's part of the law that guides it. It's part of the rules that it accommodates. Now, number 5. Prose can also be accompanied by graphics and charts, even pictures. Okay, for instance, we'll talk about the biography and autobiography. Most of the time, if you read books like books like Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Adichie has pictures inside of it. If you read some other books like that fall under the category of biography and autobiography, you will see that they have pictures. Yep, they have pictures to compensate or complement the words, the text, most of the time. So it can be accompanied by graphics. It can be accompanied by graphics. Now, from there, we move quickly to the forms of prose. Forms of prose. Now, prose can take several forms. Under the forms of prose, you know, in ACE, I told you about biography and autobiography, but we'll still come back there. Under the forms of prose, let me just jot it down. Like we talk of the forms of poetry, they're going to talk of forms of prose too. All of them have forms, characteristics, features, like we mentioned. Now, forms. Now, in forms of prose, biography, I've mentioned that is there, autobiography is there, essay is there, novel is there, short story is there, novella is there, article is there, fable is there, folk tale is there. That's about 9. But let me see how far we can go. On biography. Do I still have to go through biography? Let me just write. Biography. 2. Biography. Four. Novel. Folk tale. Now, you have them. Biography, autobiography, essay, novel, short story, novella, article, fable, and folk tale. Biography, I've explained that. I think I've done justice to that. Autobiography, I've done justice to that. Both of them comes under non-fiction. Don't forget, they come under non-fiction. But biography is me writing about another person. Autobiography is me writing about me. Now, essay is a free write-up. Essay could be biography, essay could be autobiography. It's just an account or detail of a write-up that comes to you freely. You can decide to write about anything, you know. And there are different types of essay. You have the expository essay, you have the argumentative essay, you have them plenty like that. You know what essay is in our English class, definitely. You know what essay is there. So essay is a free verse. It's a free one, like a free verse of poetry. Essay is free. Now we have the novel. Now novel is voluminous than essay. Essay are short. Most of the time when you're writing essay, you write between, you have word limits, number limit for words. You understand? You can hear people say they write essays of 1,000 words. You can hear people say they write essays of 2,000, 1,005. Some even write 500, 200. In your regular classes, I think we do 200, 250, thereabout. But then, novel is extended. It goes beyond an essay. It is limitless. Until the idea is outrightly used up, until the idea is outrightly delivered, until everything you want to say, everything you're trying to say, everything you're trying to communicate is outrightly delivered before you stop. So you have your work planned out, and you have different kinds of novel. Novel still could be biography or could be autobiography. Now, short stories are longer than essays, but are shorter to novels, because short story most of the time they are just stories that do not employ all the paraphernalia, all the essence of a novel. They are just short stories. In fact, short stories and novella are almost the same. They are just shorter. They are just shorter version of a novel, but they are longer, far longer than essay. Articles. Now, articles is like an essay, but the difference is that article features in order to deal with some kind of society. When I say some kind of society, what I mean by that is that an article could be talking about could be written against some hills. but in form of prose, not poems. Now, article may be written to address some kind of mishap. Most of the time, articles are featured in the newspapers. Articles are featured in the what do we call it, the magazines. So articles is not necessarily too lengthy. It's not necessarily too long, but then they are part of the prosaic family. Now I move directly to fable. Now fable are representation of human being. They are prose, but they are representation of human being by other beings. When I say other beings, most of the time people employ animals to represent human being. A very good example of a fable is George Orwell Animal Farm. That is a fable because it employs the usage of animals instead of human beings to represent human beings. But most of the time, people that write fable, they are mentally alive, they're mentally good, they're mentally grounded. That is why they can send home their message, they can send home whatever they want to by the usage of animals instead of human beings, and yet the ills, the vices in that society will be corrected and the message will be gotten by those in the society. So Animal Farm by George Orwell is a very good example of fable. Now folktale. Well, folktale, most of the time, let me relate it. I want to try as much as possible to bring it home to what people can relate to. So when you hear tortoise and the fox, and as it's then you hear it is the element in that piece that makes it a folktale. When you hear tortoise could be a fable. It could represent the fable, but in this case, folktale, they are short stories, just short stories that people pass down from one generation to another generation. Folktale is like is used to teach people morals on a personal level. Now it's not used to deal with social vice or social moral. It's a moral on a personal level. When you hear that the tortoise ate porridge, he ate the mother in the heaven, he fell and the back got broken, it is a message that is trying to tell you that when you do a particular thing is going to happen that is negative, and that is because that the immediate environment, the culture you find yourself in, the ethnic group, the clan you find yourself in, that is what they believe in. So they've been passing a particular story from one generation to another generation. If I sing some songs now, I think people will be able to relate with it, but then I'm not going to sing it because it has to do with dialect, and some people might not just understand the dialect I'm singing with, and they might not understand my own folk tale. Folktale can also be you have folktale, you have folklore. Folklore, folktale, they mean the same thing. They mean the same thing, except for some light different. Well, that is that about the forms of prose. Yeah, that is that about the forms of prose. Now very quickly we'll go to the third very important phase in literature, like I told you, and that is what? Drama. Join me.